Russia. We all know it and have varying opinions on it, especially lately, like in the past 100 years, or past millennia. Russia's known for being big, for having big people. The archetype of the big burly Russian man annihilating a tree with his pet bear. But why is this like this? Not 600 years ago, Russia was just the march of the Mongolian horde. Why is Russia this way? Ivan the Terrible. I'm gonna be using a bunch of clips from the 40s Ivan the Terrible Eisenstein movie, and I got all of them from the Mosfilm YouTube channel by just downloading the MP4. So massive thank you to the Mosfilm YouTube channel. They put all their movies on their YouTube channel, and it's crazy. Also go watch this movie. It's really good. Back to the video.
Венчается на царство царским венцом великий князь и государь Иван Васильевич. И нарекается боговенчанным царем московским и всея великия Руси самодержцем.
Московский князь не имеет права на царский чин.
Европа не признает его царем.
Сильно будет, признают.
Впрочем, некоторые его подданные не очень восторгаются этим венчанием.
Недовольство тех вельмож понятно.
Ivan the Terrible, the Rurikid Grand Prince of Moscow and later Tsar of all Russia, has a reputation. He established the first printing press in Russia, built St. Basil's, and empowered the church. To this day, he's also known for his outbursts and his unaccountability. His legacy, the conquest of Kazan and Crimea, the Oprichnina, the policy of punishment of lower nobles, disastrous economy, accountable only to God. That was the image, at least. He's on Orthodox Wiki! And these conquests led to a horrible era of civil wars and claimants. That wasn't only because of his feudal mismanagement, or zeal, or his massacres, or his bypasses of the Mesnichevstvo. It was his actions on Friday, November 16th, 1581, that caused this ruin. He had long gone mad, according to some. All the Russian nobles were, under the protection and oppression of the Golden Horde. Ivan was the son of Vasily III, who died when he was young, 3 years old. He was left the throne at Vasily's wishes. This left Vasily's brothers, as well as many wealthy boyar families, fighting. Ivan's regent, his mother, died when he was 8, leaving him neglected. However, the young Ivan would strike back, crowned not only as the Grand Prince of Moscow, but as the Tsar of all of Russia when he was 16. He was not the equal of the rest of Europe. He was unlike the King of France, the Khan of Crimea, or the Byzantine Emperor. He was a Tsar, and the first time since Chinggis Khan, he was ready to take Russia back for himself. His fierce zealotry led to many events such as the drowning of Polotsk, his conquest of Crimea, Kazan, and Astrakhan, along with other factors such as overpopulation and the Oprichnina's raids, led ultimately to economic and social ruin in his later reign. Ivan married 6 times, this kind of depends on who you ask, and fathered 9 children, primarily Ivan Ivanovich, lovely name. Tsarevich Ivan was the primary heir of Ivan the Terrible, and was a strapping young lad that accompanied his father on many fun times, like the Massacre of Novgorod. He also had a wife, 3 wives, but the third one only matters to us here. The Tsarevich died in 1581. This was not good. His brother Fyodor was a bit of an idiot and very unprepared for the throne. So when Ivan the Terrible died 3 years later, and Fyodor died 14 years after that, it was not good. There are many conflicting reports on how the Tsarevich died. Most put at least some blame on the Tsar. According to according to Jacques Marcheret, a French mercenary in service to Russia. There is a rumor that he, Ivan, killed the eldest, Ivanovich, with his own hand, which wasn't the case, because although he struck him with the end of his rod and he was wounded by the blow, he did not die from this, but some time later, on a pilgrimage journey. Some letters from the Tsar imply he cannot go to Moscow because of his son's illness, but the illness is not stated. Some say it occurred at midnight, none of which say it was violent. The Mazurin Chronicles says, in the summer of 1581, it was from the sovereign emperor and Grand Prince Ivan that his son, the greatness, Prince Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich, shining with wise meaning and grace, and separated from the branch of life by a blade, received evil, and from this evil he died. Why did people used to write like complete nerds? But most agree that it happened in mid-November of 1581. Polsavino, a papal diplomat, said, Ivan came across his daughter-in-law in her underwear, where he then went to beat her to death, causing her to lose her baby. To which the Tsarevich confronted him, saying, You imprisoned my first wife in a convent for no reason. You did the same with my second wife. And now you are beating up the third in order to kill the child she carries in her womb. And he was then struck in the head with a scepter, dying 5 days later. Nikolai Karamzin, a 18th century Russian historian, told a very embellished-sounding version of the same story. He, Ivan the Terrible, put his hand on him, Tsarevich. Boris Godunov wanted to come to his aid, but the Tsar inflicted several wounds to him with the point of his scepter, and struck the Tsarevich with it on the head. He then fell to the ground, spilling his blood. The father's fury disappeared. Paling with fear, trembling, in complete shock, he exclaimed, I killed my son! And he threw himself down to kiss him. Pouring out the blood flowing from a deep wound, he wept, sobbed, called for the doctors. He implored the mercy of God and for the forgiveness of his son. This version of events, removed from the beating of his wife thing, is what Ilya Repin's painting, Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan, on 16th of November, 1581, is based on. Ilya Repin was a Russian realist painter, like the kind of painting that's realistic, like this, or this, or this, or this. He's known for other paintings such as the barge haulers on the Volga, religious procession in Kursk province, reply of the Zaporizhian Cossacks, and Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan. And damn are these paintings good. Look at these lads. This dude having a jolly time. Or, speaking of jolly, is this Santa? Well, in 1881, Tsar Alexander got blown up. And the conspirators responsible got hanged, surprisingly, the hanging of which Repin witnessed. This, along with the bullfights he saw and his favorite jam, on tar, helped inspire him to paint this painting. Aside from the fact it's very technically impressive, it's also symbolically important. It represents the almost infinite ability for someone to harm another, and the nearly infinite flood of emotions that come right after. The Russo-Turkish War had recently happened, and out of it came a famous story, 4 Days, which expanded upon a similar point. Ilya Repin actually did a portrait of the author of this short story. Ivan the Terrible, a man so filled with rage, after striking his son in anger, even he has a fear of karmic justice. That moment of emotion leading up to a violent act, and the vacuum of rage felt thereafter. Sometimes the personal mental torment caused by acting out violence can be more of a punishment than prison or the gallows. This kind of murder, especially by a father, is a central part of the Russian myth, says Alain Besançon. The sacrifice of sons killed by their fathers. The theme of Christian guilt is also present. The eternal forgiveness represented by Jesus, or God. A single tear streaking down the Tsarevich's face, showing forgiveness to his father, knowing that whatever terror is in Ivan's eyes is ultimately worse than the pain Ivanovich suffered on the way to heaven. It represents not the violence, but its resolution. Also, a bunch of Orthodox extremists and iconoclasts have vandalized the painting, believing it to be a foreign smear of the dear old Ivan the Terrible. Out of all men since Caesar, Charlemagne, and Genghis Khan, Ivan IV has one of the most illustrious and grand legacies. The word terrible is translated wrong according to some. Groznoi, used as the terrible in Ivan the Terrible, is more comparable to the medieval English use of terrible as fearsome, inspiring fear, or powerful, and even courageous, magnificent, and formidable. The kind of rage and authority represented in Ivan's legacy is a foundational aspect to Russian politics, starting a somewhat subconscious belief that a strong, single autocrat could only be worthy to rule Russia. The time of troubles, I previously mentioned too, is probably a direct result of Ivan's terribleness. This is what happens when resentment succeeds. Resentment is usually categorized as being the bitter spite at injustice, real or perceived, but also comes with an air of the weakness of not being able to stop it. A rage which is always there, but never strong enough to strike back. Ivan is what happens when this strikes back. Lenin is what happens when this strikes back. Reactionaries are what happens. But in all reality, Ivan was just a man. A man probably far surpassed by his legacy, not his actions. He's not remembered for his awe-inspiring greatness,
Ныне на Москве
but for the terror.
враги единства русской земли повержены. Руки свободны. И отныне засверкает меч справедливый против тех, кто извне посягает на величие державы российской. Не дадим в обиду Русь.
Then he died during a game of chess. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, kind viewer. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, drop a view in the comments tab. I don't care. If you're wondering, I'm still working on several videos, including the Fallout one, but I just needed to get one out, and this was it. In the next couple days, I'm going to put out a very small video about the future of my channel, so watch out for that. All in all, have a great day, and remain terrible.